2 years of excuses, time's up. A frustrated judge, a never-ending divorce battle, and a woman who refuses to take action. Watch as the court finally steps in, because enough is enough.
Court will note the appearance of Ms. McNiff on behalf of the plaintiff, Ms. Thomas on behalf of the defendant. This matter is before the court on the defendant's motion to require plaintiff to comply with the judgment of divorce. Obviously, I've read the pleadings in this matter, Ms. Thomas. You don't have to reiterate those. Do you have anything in response to Ms. McNiff's answer?
Well, there's a lot of things to respond to because there was a lot of inaccuracies in there.
Well, let's respond to the salient points. There was a lot of ancillary and I believe superfluous stuff included, and I don't need you to respond to that.
Okay. All right. So the issue is, of course, whether or not and when Ms. Gentry, Ms. Tinsman has to respond or has to remove his name from the obligation. The concern is that now we've learned that her intent is to not do so for another 18 months. The problem, or to even list the house for sale for another 18 months, which would even be beyond that. But the problem of it is that it's affecting Mr. Gentry's credit. It's affecting his ability to do other things at his house and ownership of his house. And so it was supposed to be to hold him harmless. And in the response, there's several things that aren't true, including, who had the affair. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
The plaintiff, Ms. Tinsman, and the defendant, Mr. Gentry, went through a divorce. As part of the settlement, Ms. Tinsman was required to remove Mr. Gentry's name from the mortgage, either by refinancing the loan or selling the house. But more than a year has passed, and she hasn't done it. Mr. Gentry's lawyer, Ms. Thomas, argues that this delay is damaging his credit and preventing him from buying or financing his own home. She explains that, although the divorce settlement, drafted by Ms. Tinsman's attorney, didn't specify a deadline, both parties understood she was supposed to handle the issue right away. 2 years later, Mr. Gentry is still financially tied to the house, and Ms. Thomas accuses Ms. Tinsman of deliberately stalling with excuses she could control. Ms. McNiff, representing Ms. Tinsman, acknowledges that her client hasn't refinanced, but claims she doesn't yet qualify. She says lenders require 2 years of stable income, which Ms. Tinsman doesn't have yet. She adds that Ms. Tinsman does plan to sell the house, but it might take another 18 months.
Again, as you indicated, they're ancillary things. The bottom line of it is, this case was one where Ms. Tinsman's attorney drew up the document. Mr. Gentry was not represented. It was after he had met with both of the parties, and they both were of the understanding at that point that she was going to refinance and get this taken care of right away. It's now more than 2 years later, and nothing's been done. And it seems that Ms. Tinsman is of the belief that she can do this if and when she wants to, and it is affecting his credit. It is affecting, there's all kinds of excuses, but every excuse is one that frankly is under Ms. Tinsman's control. We just are asking for a date by when it needs to be done, because one wasn't put in the initial judgment of divorce that was prepared by Ms. Tinsman's attorney. And then again, the amount of things in the response were a little flabbergasting for us, quite frankly, but there are 5 missed payments according to the document from the credit union. And so we're just simply asking that there be a timeline put on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McNiff, you talk about all sorts of things in the response. What's the date that she'll have this refinanced by?
Your Honor, as we responded in detail, the problem she's going to have is that the financing companies want her to have 2 years of either W-2 or 1099 wages, and she simply doesn't have that, and so she won't be able to refinance until then. She certainly wants to sell the house sooner than 18 months, but we need a resolution of the parenting time issue. I have to file a motion, I think, to resolve that and to get that to a hearing.
Okay,
but
that's not before May today.
No, I'm just, and I understand that. She has an intent to sell.
Give me a date.
I don't have a date, Your Honor. I don't. But the big thing here, Judge, is a judgment of divorce for the property provisions is really a contract. And it's not for the court to reform the party's contract. It should have been on Mr. Gentry to ask for a date when he wanted his name off of that property. And without that being in the judgment, there is no date. I think that
Okay, that's fine.
Mrs. Tinsman will do it, but the judgment speaks for itself.
Okay, well, in this matter, it's been approximately, the judgment was back in on February 13th, 2023. So we're going on close to a year. Obviously, that's sufficient time to get the matter resolved, and the court's not going to wait indefinitely for the plaintiff to qualify or whatever. And because we can't be given a date, the court is going to order that the house be sold, listed for sale forthwith, and be sold. If something happens in the meantime, she's able to refinance, the court would consider that. But at this point, if there's no date, that she's going to have to list it for sale and have it sold forthwith, and provide Ms. Thomas with the listing agreement. I will require that be done within 14 days of today's date.
Judge, could she have a little bit more time just
Nope.
due to the holidays? It's going to be
She's had
difficult.
sufficient time. She can do it within 14 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank
got it.
you.
You can submit that, Ms. Thomas, under a 7-day.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day and a good holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks. You too.
When asked for a firm refinancing date, Ms. McNiff can't provide one. She also tries to raise parenting time issues, but the judge quickly dismisses them as irrelevant. Seeing no clear timeline, the judge rules that the court cannot wait indefinitely. Since the divorce judgment didn't include a deadline, the court will now enforce action. The final ruling. The judge orders the house to be listed for sale immediately, forthwith. Ms. Tinsman must provide the listing agreement to Mr. Gentry's lawyer within 14 days. If she refinances before the sale is finalized, the court may reconsider, but selling is required for now. Ms. McNiff requests extra time due to the holiday season, but the judge denies it, firmly stating that Ms. Tinsman has already had more than enough time. This case highlights the serious consequences of delays in property settlements. Because Ms. Tinsman failed to act in a timely manner, the court had to step in to protect Mr. Gentry's financial future.